Hello, in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to get an object to move around the screen, move left, right, up, and down as shown on this game on the screen right now. You see this guy moves up, down, left, and right. He's animated as he walks, and when you let go he stops moving and his animation stops. So that's where we're going to try and get done here. Let me go ahead and move this out of the way. And first thing, you got to make sure that you've already got your sprites set up. If you do not have your left, right, up, and down sprites already created, then please do so before continuing with this video. Or if you don't know how to do it, there is a video that explains how to do it, about how to make sprites out of an aligned sprite sheet. So if you need to, watch that video first and go through it so that you've got these. And I'm going to go through real quick just so everybody can confirm that you have what you need. So I'm going to open up these 4 sprites here, and you'll see that they are all in the different directions here. You're going to want to double check a few things here. Make sure that they are all facing the right way, they're named properly, and that sort of thing. The names should all be similar. In this case, see, I've got SPR, night, left, and then I've got right and up and down. On each one, I would just to double check that everything's okay, just run the animation, make sure it looks good, and again scroll down to the others, make sure that they look the way they should. The other thing you want to check is that the origins are all in the same place, and the way you do that is just go through and look at on this part right here where it marks where the origin is. Make sure they all say top left, or they all could say center, but as long as they are the same. You see this little crosshair right here, that's what you want to be concerned with. Please avoid clicking down here, because then you see that offsets everything and messes things up. So just leave it on top left or center for each one. For this tutorial, either one of those works okay. So they all look good. I'm going to shut them all down here, and then we will get on with our tutorial here. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is we've got to make an object. I'm going to do that right here. Just like when we created sprites, you just go to the objects, right click, and go create. Okay. And just like with the sprites, I'm going to use a naming convention, and I'm going to use a very similar naming convention that I'd used with the sprites. Instead of SPR, I'm going to be using OBJ as the prefix, and I'm going to use the same name that I used for the sprites, but this time I'm not going to add a left or right or up or down. The one object will use all 4 of those sprites. I'm going to set the sprite. The sprite I'm going to use is the down sprite, the one where he's facing me. Okay, so I pick that guy. That's what it looks like. All right, so next step I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and put him in the room now so I can demonstrate a few things and show why why we have to do some of the things we do. So go over here. If this is not expanded, this little triangle right there, you click that and it expands, and you can double click on see room 0. To zoom in and out here, you just hold the control key down and spin your mouse wheel forward to make it to zoom in, spin it backwards to zoom out. To move around, you just you middle mouse with the middle mouse button, you just push down on the wheel and you grab it and move it around. Okay. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to drag this guy, the knight character, and just click with the left mouse button and drag it. I want to put him roughly in the middle of the screen. Okay, then I'm going to play the game and I'm going to show you what it looks like. Alright, you can see he's sitting in there. He does not move left, right, up, or down at all, but you do see that his little legs are moving. So that's one of the first things we have to stop. We got to get to stop doing that. And the way you do that is you basically ask yourself a question: when do I want him to not move his legs? And the answer is when the game starts. Or another way to say it is when he is created. When that object is created, we want his animation to stop moving. I'm going to close this out on the side here so I've got a little more room to work with. So that's my event. There's add event. You click this button. An event is something that happens that causes other actions to happen. So if you press a key, you run into something, the game starts, that sort of thing. That's the event. So the create event occurs when the character first appears in the room, and that's when we want this to happen. We want his animation to stop. So I click create, and then the actions window pops open, and we come over here and we look down at the instances section. These are all actions that can occur in the create event. So we want his animation to stop. That's this one right here. It's the little guy. Looks like he's chasing a couple of triangles here. So we'll drag that into place. And this is set animation speed. And what this current number means is every step it will advance to the next sub-image. So if I open up my, actually let's use the down one because that's the one we were actually saying. So when the game starts and you see the default animation speed is 1, every step he goes here, then here, then here, then here, and he just cycles through, and that's what gives him the illusion of motion. So we'll go back to our object, and we're going to set this to 0. And what that does is now he will not advance to the next sub-image. And you can quickly see that if we play the game, you will see that the animation is no longer happening, and it looks like he's just standing there now. Just like that. Okay. All right, next we're going to start getting him to move. And the way we're going to do it is I'm going to do the left direction completely, and then we can just duplicate it, save ourselves some time. We can just duplicate it and just make a few tweaks to the other direction to make it work. Okay. So the event I'm going to use to get him to move to the left is when I press down on the left arrow key, I want him moving. Okay. Now you may want a different key. A lot of times in games, people use the W, A, S, and D keys instead of the arrow keys. So in this case, if you decide to do that, you may do so. But just be aware that I'm going to be using left, right, up, and down for simplicity's sake. But I will try and tell you when those changes are made. So first again, add event. So I'm going to add event, and so again I click this button, the add event button, and I go to key down. This means whenever the key is down, and it is the left key down, you see right there, then I want whatever I put in this actions window will happen. Okay, so the first thing I want it to do is I want it to move left. So I come down here to the movement section, right here, movement, and I want to pick this first button, set direction fix. It's a real simple one. Just click that and tell it, click on the arrow for the direction you want it to go. Now, just like in real life, direction doesn't mean anything for movement unless you have some speed, so we got to add some speed here. So I go over here in the same section, movement. You see set speed, just drag that right under there. And these don't have to be in this order, just the way it is. But typically people in real life, when they turn in the direction they want to go, then they set a speed. So we're just trying to simulate real life a little bit better. So I'm going to set a speed of 4. Now what that number means is the number of dots on the screen. If you zoom in really close on a computer screen, you'll see it's made up of a bunch of dots. And what that number means is every step it is going to move 4 dots, in this case in the left direction. So that's what that means. All right. So I'm going to play the game, and you see the up and down and right do nothing. So if I hit up, nothing's happening. If I hit down, nothing's happening. If I hit right, nothing's happening. But as soon as I hit left, he starts moving to the left. Now he won't stop. But you see he's not turning to the left, and he's not animating at all. So we're going to fix that. So first thing we want to do is let's go ahead and set the change his sprite so that he's facing to the right. And the way we do that is up here in the instance section, right here, instances, you will see this one looks like a Pac-Man. Drag this. This is what changes his sprite. Now if he's going to the left, we want him to use the left sprite. So I'm going to click this little pull down, and you see there's my animations. If you want to enlarge these, you hit this little slider right there. So then you can I think you can hit these little buttons right there, and it'll, no, I guess not. It'll just enlarge. So drag this slider to enlarge them so you can see them as big as you want. however you need to. So I'm going to pick the left guy. Okay. And you see, well, I'll go into this later, but we'll go, if we play, you see now, if I go up and down and right, nothing happening. But if I go to left, see now he turns to the left, but you see he's sliding. And this is because, remember in the create event, we set his animation speed to 0. So he is not cycling through all of his sub images. If I look on the left one here, see he's staying on this one right there. So this is what is happening. So let me go back to the object. If I go now, so I got to start his animation up again. So I go just in the same event that I use, or the same action that I used to stop his animation. I'm going to drag that in. And now I'm going to start his animation. And again, speed 1 means that he will cycle through one step or one sub-image every step. So in the first step, he'll be on this one. The second step, he'll be on this one. Third step here. Fourth step, he'll be on the third one. Okay. So now we're going to play this, and you're going to see something strange happen. Okay, now so up doesn't work, down doesn't work, right doesn't work because we haven't programmed that. Now what's going to happen here is if I just tap the left key, he'll walk. But if I'm holding down the left key as I am now, his animation will stop. And there's a reason for it in the way we programmed it. We basically told it to do that, and we're going to fix that so that it doesn't happen anymore. If you look here, you see we set his direction to left. We set his speed to 4. And then on this one right here, we told it to go to the left sprite, and we told it to go to frame 0. What frame 0 is, and you'll find this in programming a lot, is programmers typically don't count when they start counting. Don't start with 1. They start with 0. So this is frame 0. This is frame 1. This is frame 2 and frame 3. So we're telling it every step right here. We're telling it go to frame 0. So that's what it's doing. Every step whenever that key's held down, it is going to step to frame 0. It's going to this guy right here. We don't want it to do that. We want it to just, whatever frame it happens to be on, that's what we're going to do. So the simple trick to fix that is click this relative button right here, this checkbox. Click that. What that does, instead of setting it to 0, it adds 0 to whatever the current sub-image is. So if I go to the left sub-image, or if I go to the left sprite, I'll see that this is 0 right here. If I add 0 to 0, I get 0. So if he's on 1 and I add 0, he's still on 1. If he's on 2 and I add 0, he's still on 2. So now his sprite should now work correctly. So let's go back to the object and test it. Okay, so now again, up, down doesn't work, right doesn't work, but left works, and even whether I'm pressing it or not, he walks to the left. Okay, but he doesn't stop. So that's our next step. We'll get him to now stop. So I'm going to go, so when I let go of the key, or when the key comes up, when the left key comes up, we will add that. So here we have add event, key up, and again left this time. Remember, we're going to do the left direction completely, and then we'll duplicate everything. So what we're going to have happen is we are going to make it so that we are going to make him stop moving. We're going to stop his animation, and then we're going to well, I'll show you in a second. So we're going to stop his speed, and again, just like on to start him up, here's our set speed right here. We drag that over, and we want his speed to be 0. So now, if I play, and I go to the left and let go, he stops moving, but his little legs keep going. Okay, so the next thing we got to do is we got to get it to stop animating. So that's the next step. Again, in the Instances section, here's the animation speed. Set animation speed. Drag that into place. We want his animation speed to be 0. We want him to stop just like he did when the game first started. We do not click relative this time. This time we want him to go, or we want him to, I'm sorry, that was on another part. We want him to, his speed to be 0. So he's not going to cycle through anymore. So now we play the game. And we find that we have another problem. As we walk to the left here, you'll notice that sometimes when he stops, his legs are apart from each other. Now, most people, when they walk, when they stop, they put their legs together. So we want, see, like this. We want his legs together when he stops. Okay. So the way we're going to do that is we are going to set his sprite again. We're going to use the same kind of set animation. We're going to set his sprite. Drag that in. Okay, now he is going to the left, so we have to set his sprite to the left this time. Okay. So again, I click there and I pick that guy right there. And then this time we do want him to go to frame 0. So if we go back to the sprite here, you'll see there's frame 0. That's him standing still. Frame 2 also does the same thing. So we could put a 0 or 2 there. It doesn't matter. But for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to leave it at 0. So now when the game plays, when you let go of the left key, he stops moving, his animation stops, and he goes back to, well, he's still on the left sprite, but this just gets it to go to the frame 0. Okay. So now if I play, you will see that that works famously. So now he goes to the left, stops, and you'll see whenever he stops, his legs are always together. Okay. So now we've got the left working just as we want it to. So now we want to change one thing a little bit. And this is to make our lives easier if we decide to change something later on. Notice we use the speed here, and for the direction speed, or for the speed that he's moving, we put the 4 right here to tell us how fast we want it to move, and then down here for animation speed we set this 1. Now if we go and duplicate all these directions, and they'll all say 4 for speed and 1 for animation speed, but what happens if we decide, you know what, he's not moving fast enough, we want him to go faster, or if he gets some kind of power up and we want him to go faster when he hits that power up, we want to be able to change the speed quickly without having to go through and reprogram everything. So what we're going to do is in the create event, we'll go to the create event right now. We're going to set what are called variables. Variables, all the variables are just words or a letter that represent a number or some other value. So right here, I'm going to drag this guy right here, assign variable, pull that in. And the variable name I'm going to use here is called SPD. This is going to be what we use to control how fast he moves. Okay. So the reason I'm using SPD is the word speed is an actual variable used in GameMaker that will get him to move. So we could change his speed using that. So we can't use it to set his speed. It just tells whatever his current speed is. So that's why we can't use it. So I'm just using SPD. And you can spell it how you want, all capital letters like this, or SPD like, first letter uppercase, the rest lowercase. But you have to remember how you spell it, because spelling counts in GameMaker. It thinks there's a huge difference between this capital SPD and this, so it does not understand it. So you got to make sure that you spell it correctly. I'm just going to use lowercase SPD. I'm going to set this value to 4. Remember, this is this value we set for speed. So I'm going to set SPD to 4 to represent the same thing. I'm going to also set another variable. This one I'm going to call AniSpeed, ANISPD. Again, you can choose whatever name you want here as long as it's not already a built-in variable in GameMaker. But you have to remember how you spelled it. Otherwise, it will not work correctly. So now I'm going to go to value here, and I'm just going to put 1. This is going to represent our animation speed, how fast he cycles through his subimages. And this is what we have it set to in the programming already. So now I'm going to go to my key down left, and I'm going to start replacing this. So where I set my speed here, I'm going to change this from speed from 4, I'm going to just change it to SPD, which right now when the game runs will equal 4. That's what it stands for. Okay, and then down here for set animation speed, I'm going to put ANI SPD. And remember, you must spell it exactly the same as you did in the create event. So now if I play this game, even though this is a word here, this means 4, and then here it means 1. The ani speed here means 1. So again, I just play the game and you will see that it works just as it did before. No changes. So if I go to the left, he still works exactly the same. But I can quickly change. If I go to the create event and I change his SPD value to 8 now, which is double what it was, and hit play. You will see he now moves twice as fast. Okay, and same with ani speed. I can slow him down. I can go make his animation speed, say 0.25, which is a quarter of the speed he normally goes. So now watch his feet here, and you'll see he will move. His legs will move very slowly. Now it gives you a weird effect, like he is sliding, but you see that's what it can control. So I'm gonna set this to 4, and I'm gonna set his animation speed to 0.5. You might want to write it like this so it's a little bit clearer to see. 0.5. I'm gonna zoom in real quick so you can see. Okay. So that's what you can do. Now that we've got left set up, we got left completely set up for him to start and for him to stop. We can start duplicating these and then just making a few changes here to make it a little bit simpler. So for key down left on over here, just have this selected, right click on it and go duplicate event right here. You click that and you select what do you want to duplicate it to. So we're gonna go key down right. Do the same for key down, duplicate, key down up, and duplicate event, key down down. Now if you were using WASD, left would be you would make it key down letters A. Up would be key down letters W. Right would be key down letters D. And then down would be key down letters S. Okay. All right. So now I need to go through and just change some of the things in these other directions here. So left, you see, I'm going to the left. I'm picking the left sprite. Okay. I need to do the same in all. So for up, I got to change it to. Let me zoom out here. There we go. For left or for up, I got to make sure that I'm clicking the up button. Again, make sure up is selected over here. Clicking the up button, changing it to the up sprite, which is this guy facing away from you. For the right, same thing. Click on the right over here and change it to the right sprite. And then for down, click down and change it to the down sprite, like that. Okay, now for the left, for the key up left, you're going to do the same thing here. We're going to just duplicate these. Duplicate event, key up this time, right. Duplicate event, key up, up. And duplicate event, key up, down. Now you'll notice this puts it in a different order than it shows on the menu. You can't change these. You can't change the orders of these. This is the order that they run them, and this is the order that the program sets them to go. So you can't like grab this and drag it down. So you have to just live with it. All right. So now let's go through these and fix them here. So key up left. You see the only thing that really needs to change is setting the sprite right here. Okay. I'm going to go to up, and I'm going to change that to up. Okay. Change right to the right sprite. And change down to the down sprite. Okay. Now we are about done, but let's just test it and make sure it's working okay. So Here he is. See, he stops when game starts. Now he moves to the left, and he stops. Feet together. Moves to the right. Stops. Feet together. There we go. Up, down, and everything is working swimmingly as it should. Okay. All right. There you go. All right. Thank you. And we'll have other videos now how to make it work like a platform game, a simple platform game. And we'll do another one where he is steering like a car. So stay tuned for those. All right, we will see you soon.